When my parents handed the family business to my brother, they cut me out like I was just a bystander. At a backyard gathering, my dad raised a toast and said, "This is the future of our company right here." My mom smiled and added, "We're done counting on someone who never took anything seriously." I just sipped my drink and said, "Thanks for making it clear. You'll regret this, I promise." Then I walked out. Years later, their future is collapsing. Now the business is in shambles, and they're calling, texting, even showing up at my door, begging, "Please, help us." They always had Sunday barbecues, and I kept showing up like a damn idiot. Maybe because I still believed being there meant something, that they'd eventually see me. My name's Vincent. I'm 36, living in Carlsbad, California. Single. No kids. No real ties except to this family, which turned out to mean less than I thought. That afternoon, the sun was bright and annoying, all golden hour pretty as it bounced off the manicured lawn. Sean was holding court, as usual, in his perfect white polo and mirrored sunglasses, telling some story about the new golf simulator he installed in his garage. Everyone laughed at the right times. Even Alan, Dad, cracked a rare smile. I kept quiet, sipping my drink, half listening. I'd heard this one before anyway. It always ended with Sean being brilliant and successful and admired by everyone. I knew my part in these gatherings, background furniture that occasionally chimed in with a clever joke or offered to flip the burgers. Dinner started the way it always did, grace from Mom, Marlene, passed around like a forced group activity, followed by champagne toasts and plates piled too high. I sat across from Sean, diagonally from Alan. The table gleamed with inherited silverware and misplaced pride. Then Alan cleared his throat. "We've made some decisions," he said, tapping his glass lightly. "About the estate." Just like that. No build-up. No warm-up. Sean straightened in his chair. I froze with a forkful of potato salad halfway to my mouth. Alan continued, voice even and practiced. "We've placed the family holdings, all properties, investments, and liquid assets, into a trust, controlled by Sean and his children." Silence. Long and sharp. "Wait," I said. "All of it." Marlene didn't miss a beat. "We're simplifying things. Streamlining." I stared at them. "So I'm just not part of that?" Alan didn't look at me when he nodded. Sean sipped his drink. Then Marlene hit me with the kill shot. "We're not wasting resources on someone who never amounted to more than a hobbyist." The word sliced through the air like a blade. Hobbyist. I felt something harden in me, like concrete setting. I didn't yell, didn't cry. I just stood up and looked at each of them, one by one. "You'll regret this," I said. Voice calm. Cold. "Not today. But one day, you'll wish you had handled this differently." Nobody moved. I didn't grab my jacket. Didn't say goodbye. I just walked. As I stepped off the patio and into the driveway, I heard it, laughter. Faint at first, then louder, like someone had cracked a joke. They were already moving on. That fast. And me? I was already gone. The first week after the barbecue, my phone was dead silent. Not a missed call, not a, "Hey, you okay?" Nothing. Except one text from Marlene. "Hope you take time to reflect. We'll be here when you're ready to grow up." I read it twice, then deleted it without replying. That was all they had for me. A pat on the head, a scolding, and the door slammed shut. I didn't reach out. I buried myself in work, small-time design jobs, contracting gigs, anything that kept me too busy to think. I got drinks with people who didn't ask about my family and didn't care where I came from. Nobody needed a backstory. Just good Wi-Fi and decent conversation. Group chats from the family kept pinging with invites, Sunday dinners, Lily's soccer game, a weekend at the lake house. I ignored every single one. Sometimes I'd stare at the messages, watching the little icons come and go. Sean's stupid nickname for me still showed up under the threads, Vin. Cute. Like they hadn't just cut me out like I was a dying limb. Then came the call. It was Marlene again, 2 weeks later. Her voice had that fake brightness she used when she wanted something. "We're having a little birthday party for Kyle," she said. "Sean's boy. Just family. I know things have been tense, but it would mean a lot to him if you came." "Sure it would." I said nothing for a few seconds, long enough for her to start nervously filling the silence. "You don't have to stay long, just show your face. We all miss you, Vincent." "Right." I agreed eventually, mostly out of curiosity. I wanted to see them squirm. The party was at the big property in Encinitas, the one with the circular driveway and the white stone pillars that always made me feel like an intruder. There were balloon arches and a taco bar, a guy in a Spider-Man costume doing face paint. Sean loved a show. I stayed near the back patio, nursing a warm beer and watching everyone perform Happy Family. Sean walked past me once, clapping me on the shoulder like nothing had happened. "Glad you made it," he said. "Been too long, huh?" I didn't respond. Just nodded and looked past him. But I was watching. Alan was tense. He kept checking his phone, muttering into Marlene's ear. Marlene's smile was sharp, like it had been glued on. And Sean, he was bouncing between conversations, talking a little too loud, laughing a little too hard. I caught fragments. Yeah, the permits got delayed again. Contractor's a no-show. I'll handle it. Just, look, we're stretched thin, okay? People asked about the business. Sean's answers were vague. Too vague. Later, I noticed a man I recognized from the city's building office. He was cornering Sean by the drinks table, whispering something about fines. Sean waved him off with a smile, but his jaw was clenched. That's when it clicked. He was overwhelmed. Way over his head. Managing the family real estate empire wasn't just some cushy inheritance. It was a daily grind. Inspections, tenants, maintenance, taxes. All the stuff he used to ignore while I helped Alan with it. And now? Now he was flailing. I could see it plain as day. I didn't say a word. Just watched. And when Marlene called me over for a family photo, I turned and walked back to my car. Let them figure it out. I was done saving people who didn't want me. A couple weeks after Kyle's party, I took the long way home from a client meeting in La Jolla. I wasn't thinking about anything in particular, just coasting, windows down, letting the air clear my head. Then I saw it. One of the family's crown jewel rentals. A coastal property they loved to brag about. All glass siding and white tile, perched up with a view of the ocean. Alan used to call it the marble box. Said it was the cleanest, most profitable unit in the portfolio. Except now the lawn was overgrown. The once pristine driveway had weeds poking through the cracks. A city citation sticker clung to the mailbox like a scarlet letter. I parked across the street and sat there, just staring. It didn't make sense, not for that property. If this one was in trouble, I figured the rest of them probably weren't doing much better. The next morning, I grabbed coffee near the strip mall where I knew one of our tenants. Well, one of Sean's now, lived above a boutique fitness studio. Turned out it was Madison Riker, a girl I went to high school with, same graduating class. She recognized me immediately when I walked into the lobby. Vincent? No way. You still around here? Yeah, I said. Still local. Doing design stuff now, mostly freelance. She rolled her eyes. At least you're not stuck in a top-floor oven with a broken AC and a landlord who ghosts every email. I raised an eyebrow. Sean. She nodded. Dude, the guy hasn't returned a message in a month. My sink leaked for 9 days straight. Finally had to call the city. Damn, I said, keeping my voice neutral. You file a complaint? Oh yeah, you bet I did. One of the inspectors said this whole building's been flagged for multiple code violations. You'd think with a family like that. She caught herself, realizing who she was talking to. I waved it off. Don't worry. I'm nobody to them these days. Later that night, I logged into a few public databases I still had bookmarked from back when I used to help Alan. Property tax histories, housing citations, city records, and it was all right there. Late fees, violations, missed permits, at least 4 addresses under review for code compliance issues. The foundation wasn't just cracked, it was rotting. I started documenting it. Not for revenge, not yet. I wasn't sure what I was going to do with it. But I saved screenshots, downloaded PDFs, organized everything into folders by property name. Names I used to help manage. Places I'd painted, pressure washed, even landscaped when things got tight. Now they were falling apart. And Sean was pretending it was all fine. I didn't tell anyone, not even my friends. I just kept digging, watching, waiting, because I knew something they didn't. A house doesn't collapse all at once. It buckles, one cracked tile at a time. The first message came from Opal. I hadn't heard from her in months. We were never close, even when things were better. She always kept things light. Party planning, Pinterest boards, family dinners with little place cards she hand-lettered like we were royalty. But this text? It wasn't decorative. Hey Vincent, hope you're doing okay. This might be weird, but do you know any good contractors? We've had some issues with a few properties. Nothing major, just behind on a few things. Would love any names you trust. I read it twice. Then I read it again. It was polite, careful, desperate under the surface. Like a woman on a ship that just hit the iceberg, but still pretending everything was fine. I didn't respond right away. I waited 2 days. Let her squirm a little. Then I sent back. You chose your team. Play with it. No, hope you're well. No, maybe I can help. Just that. Then I blocked her number. That Sunday, they tried a different approach. Marlene invited me to dinner. Said it was just family. I was tempted to ignore it again, but something told me I should go. I wanted to see how bad it had gotten. I showed up late, dressed nice enough to piss them off, leather jacket, jeans, clean boots. Sean opened the door and looked surprised. Not happy. Just surprised. The house felt weird. Stiff. Like everyone had rehearsed how they'd behave if I showed up. Alan was already seated, swirling a glass of scotch. Marlene had set the table with her best dishes, like she thought fine china could erase betrayal. Dinner started normal. Small talk. The usual. Then Marlene leaned in, cutting her steak too neatly. So, Vincent, she said, have you noticed the state of the Delmar property? I took a bite of roasted potatoes and shrugged. I don't keep up with the empire anymore. Alan grunted. It's falling apart. Lawn looks like hell. Tenants are pissed. We're getting fines. Sounds like a management issue, I said, wiping my mouth. I thought Sean was handling things. Sean dropped his fork. I am handling things. Marlene shot him a look. Alan chimed in. Clearly not well enough. That's when it started to unravel. Sean's voice jumped an octave. You two dumped everything in my lap and act like I asked for this. I didn't sign up to be a babysitter for 20 buildings. Alan's voice turned sharp. We gave you control, not chaos. Marlene tried to calm it down with her passive smile. Let's not turn this into something ugly. Sean snapped. You think it's easy? He sat back for years doing nothing, and now I'm drowning. He pointed at me like I was some ghost. You think you're so clever, just watching us sink. I stood up slowly, placing my napkin on the table. You're right, Sean. I am watching. It's fascinating. Help us then, he yelled, face red. You want to be the savior? Fine. Fix it. I stepped closer. You cut me out, remember? You wanted the crown. Wear it. The tension snapped like a wire. Sean stood too, fist clenched. Alan barked, sit down. But I was already backing away. I'm not your backup plan, I said. I'm not your crutch. I turned and walked out. No jacket. No goodbye. Again. The door slammed behind me. And this time, I didn't look back. I never raised my voice. Never threw a punch. Never lied, threatened, or blackmailed. I just started pointing people in the right direction. It started with Madison. The girl from high school, the one renting above the yoga studio. I ran into her again outside the building, and we talked for a minute. I asked if anyone from the city had followed up on her complaint. They sent someone by last week, she said. Took pictures. Wrote something on a clipboard. I nodded like it was just small talk. If they don't fix it, you can file a second report. Escalates faster that way. Just go on the city website housing violations. She blinked. I didn't know that. Most people don't. After that, I kept running into tenants. A woman outside the duplex on Elm Street, trying to fix her own screen door with duct tape. A college kid in sweatpants yelling into his phone about another water leak. An older guy hauling bags of garbage down because the dumpster hadn't been emptied in a week. To each of them, I said the same thing. You know, you don't have to just live with that. There's a form online. Real simple. I never said, Sean's an idiot. I never told them who I was. I just handed them tools. And they started using them. Code enforcement trucks showed up more often. First it was one property, then another. I drove by one afternoon and saw a notice stapled to the door of a building Sean used to brag about. A fat red citation, flapping in the breeze. Within days, I heard from Kelly, one of the long-term tenants who used to send Christmas cards to the family every year. She texted me a screenshot of a group chat. Renters talking, organizing, comparing notes. Someone had even started a little spreadsheet with complaint numbers and photos. I didn't do anything illegal. I didn't even lie. I just made sure the people who lived in those buildings understood their rights. Sean and Opal were crumbling. Opal posted a long, vague paragraph on Facebook about people who kick others when they're down. Sean went silent on social media entirely. Alan, of course, called me. It was a short call. You think this is funny? He snapped. I sat at my desk, flipping through a folder of documentation I had no intention of sharing. I think accountability is overdue. You're still part of this family. No, I interrupted. That ship sailed when you put my name on nothing. There was a pause. Then Alan, bitter and tired, said, we always expected better from you. I smiled into the phone. That's the difference between us. I never expected anything. Then I hung up. They built the empire. They handed it to Sean. All I did was shine a light on the cracks. And they did the rest. It happened faster than I expected. The first real blow landed when the city pulled the rental license on a craftsman house in North Park. Structural issues. Mold. Multiple fire code violations. The tenants were given 2 weeks to vacate. Sean tried to fight it, but the city had pictures, reports, everything. I knew, because I'd helped those tenants file the paperwork. Repairs would have cost more than the house was worth. That was the beginning. Word got out. Fast. Tenants talked. Contractors ghosted them. And soon, even the handyman Sean had on call stopped showing up because the checks were bouncing. Then the messages started coming. It was a Thursday afternoon when Sean showed up at my apartment. No text. No warning. Just a knock on the door, like we were kids again, and he was asking to borrow a game controller. I opened it slowly. He looked terrible. Shirt wrinkled. Eyes bloodshot. He was breathing hard, like he'd run up the stairs even though there was an elevator. Vincent, he said, almost pleading. I just want to talk. I didn't move. You're talking. He hesitated, then launched into it like the words were lava he couldn't hold back. We're drowning. That Delmar place? Gone. 2 others under review. The banks are calling. Tenants are suing. The insurance company's freezing the policies. And I asked, arms crossed. He blinked, like he couldn't believe I wasn't falling apart right there with him. I need help, he said. I don't know what to do. No one's answering calls anymore. Not the lawyers, not the city, no one. I've got fines stacking up and Dad's just blaming me for everything. And Opal. He faltered, rubbing his face. She's not talking to me. She's staying at her sister's. What about your team? I said, flat. He looked down. They're gone. I leaned against the doorframe. So now what? You come here, ask for my help, like we're brothers again. I didn't mean for it to go like this, he said quickly. I swear. I didn't even want the whole thing at first, but Dad, he made it sound easy. Said I was the right one. Said I had the head for it. You believed him. He didn't answer. And you still think I owe you something? I asked. No, he said, voice cracking. But I'm begging you anyway. The words hung there between us. Humble, broken, real. And I felt nothing. No, I said. His eyes welled up, but he nodded slowly like he'd prepared for it. He turned to leave, then stopped, turning back, and for the first time in his life, he didn't look smug or superior. He looked small. You're really going to watch us fall apart? He asked. I didn't blink. I already did. After he left, the floodgates opened. The family group chat blew up. First from Alan, walls of text about family, loyalty, shame. Then Marlene, dropping voice messages in that crying whisper she used when she wanted pity. Then Opal, one line, dry and hollow. Thanks for destroying us. Hope it was worth it. I didn't reply. Then came the cousins. An aunt. Even Marlene's old church friend messaged me on Facebook. We all need to come together and fix this. Vincent, please. I muted every thread. Blocked every number. Let them scramble. They made the bed. Let them rot in it. It was Sean who put the crown jewel on the market. The oceanfront property in Carlsbad, the one Alan called our legacy. He used to walk guests through it like it was a museum exhibit. Custom stonework. Infinity pool. Even the closet doors were imported from somewhere with too many vowels. I found the listing through a friend in real estate. She texted me a screenshot with 2 words. Recognize this? I stared at the price. It was listed well below value, a desperation sale if I'd ever seen one. The description made it sound like a steal, motivated sellers, investment opportunity, minor repairs needed. Translation. Sean was bleeding money and Alan had no more tricks left. I didn't go through a broker. I didn't schedule a showing. I had a friend place the offer, all cash, through a shell LLC I'd set up years ago for freelance tax purposes. Clean. Legal. Anonymous. The sale closed in less than 10 days. 2 weeks after that, I got a call from a lawyer representing the previous owners. We understand you recently acquired a property that's personally significant to the family, he said, his voice smooth like it was rehearsed. There's interest in reacquiring it. Would you be open to negotiations? I hung up without answering. I never returned his follow-ups. Didn't even save his number. I drove by the property once. It was sunset. The light hit the house in that perfect way, the kind of glow Alan used to brag about, timing dinner parties so guests could watch the horizon turn orange through his $60,000 windows. But it wasn't glowing now. I parked across the street and stayed in the car. Watched as Alan stood on the front steps arguing with a city inspector. His hands were flying in that clipped, impatient way he always used when someone was telling him no. The inspector didn't budge. A few feet away, Marlene sat on the porch. Her arms were wrapped around herself like she was cold, even though it was 70 degrees. She looked tired. Her mascara had smudged beneath one eye. She didn't say a word, just stared out at the lawn, blinking like she was trying to disappear. They didn't see me. I made sure of that. I stayed long enough to see Alan shove a folded notice into his pocket. Marlene whispered something I couldn't hear. Then I put the car in gear and drove off. Didn't honk. Didn't wave. Didn't stop. The deed was in my name now. I didn't move in. Didn't rent it out. I didn't even tell anyone I owned it. Because it wasn't about money. It was about what they said I'd never have. A place in the family. And now? The jewel was mine. After the Carlsbad house, the silence got loud. It started with letters. Not emails, letters. The kind written on thick paper with expensive ink, like they thought that made it more personal. More sincere. Alan's was the first. 2 pages, handwritten. He didn't apologize. He explained. There were expectations, traditions. You wouldn't understand how hard it is to lead a family. Then he slipped in the ask. If there's any chance of reclaiming the property, name your price. I didn't respond. Marlene left voicemails. Always at night, always soft, like she thought a gentle tone could erase 20 years of cuts. Vincent. I don't know if you're listening, but I miss you. We miss you. She cried at the end of the 3rd message. Not loud, but the kind where you could hear the breath hitching between words. Then Sean showed up again. This time he didn't knock. Just sat outside my building in his car. I saw him from my window, hands clenched on the wheel, face pale. I waited 30 minutes before I went down. He got out as I approached and tried to smile, but it collapsed halfway up his face. I just want to talk. No, I said. Calm. Final. I'm sorry, he blurted. Okay. I'm sorry. We screwed up. I screwed up. I kept walking. He followed, step for step. Vincent, I can't fix it. I know that. But we're not okay. None of us are. And Yuki stopped, like he couldn't say the next part. You're just gone. I told you, I said, turning to face him. You made that choice the night you laughed behind my back. He didn't speak. Just stood there, broken. I left him in the parking lot, staring at the ground. The house stayed empty. I never lived in it. Never rented it. Never furnished a single room. But every so often, I drove past. Just to see. One morning, I saw Alan on the front lawn. His shirt was wrinkled. He had that hollow, deflated look of a man who finally understood loss. He stood with his hands on his hips, gazing at the house like it was a tomb. As I passed, our eyes met. He blinked once. Recognition. I didn't slow down. Didn't roll the window down. Just kept driving, steady, quiet. And in that moment, it all came full circle. They stripped me of a name. I took their legacy. Now they stood in the ruins of what they once ruled. And me? I was free. No noise. No drama. No more explanations. Just silence, the kind I'd waited my whole life to earn.